Hello and welcome to the show brought to you with the support of Mediaproxy. Now, international trade shows are often the scenes of new releases and face-to-face demonstrations of the latest innovations. And we've often had the pleasure of spending time with today's guest, both in person and on this show, whilst trade shows have been largely on hold.
Yes, we'd like to welcome Freddy Vinehill-Cliffe from Nugen Audio back into the studio. Hi Freddy, how are you doing?
Hi, nice to see you. I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
We're all very good here. So let's start with a recap of the tools you brought out the last year or so. And obviously, the recent IBC show was going to go ahead. What would you have been showing?
So over the past 18 months, we've been fairly busy in terms of what we've put out. So the new tools that we've released have been Paragon, Paragon ST, and our Focus Elements plugins. So that's stereoizer elements, stereo placer elements, and monofilter elements. So we were really looking forward to IBC because it was going to be our first opportunity to demonstrate all 5 of those products in the flesh. So obviously it's a little bit disappointing, but we're still looking forward to doing that at some point. And yeah, I guess the main focus for IBC out of those would have been Paragon, which is our 3D compatible convolution reverb.
So let's focus on the broadcast market. Of the products you just mentioned just now, which is most relevant to that sector?
So, as I kind of alluded to there, I guess it would be Paragon. So, sort of the main thing that's unique about Paragon is that it's a convolution reverb, but it also operates in up to 712 surround sound. So that means that it can be used very easily for Dolby Atmos mixes. And obviously Dolby Atmos is becoming such a major force in the industry now. So many TV shows are now being mixed in Dolby Atmos, especially in the kind of the streaming age. So having a convolution reverb, which is obviously a lot more realistic than algorithmic reverb, having that available for mixing in Dolby Atmos is a pretty big deal. And to our knowledge, Paragon is the first reverb that can do that.
How does convolution rather than algorithmic reverb? Give us just a brief rundown of the difference between the two, because it does make a difference in the reality that how it feels, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So convolution reverbs are based on recordings of real spaces. So those recordings are called impulse responses, and it's essentially a recording that measures how a space reacts to every frequency. So what you would normally do is you would play something like a sine sweep or some other sound that basically covers the whole range of human hearing. You would play that in a space, record that, and then you do what's called deconvolving. I think is the you would I think is the word, and then essentially you create a reverb sound from that, and it should in theory sound exactly how it would have sounded in that space.
Yeah.
So I guess just from what you're saying there, I mean, trade shows are really important because I don't know quite how you can demonstrate this sort of technology online. When can we expect to see more in-person demonstrations of your tools, do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right that it's really useful to actually just be able to get your hands on something like this, to actually be able to see it in action. So fingers crossed, all going to plan. We should be attending the NAB show in Las Vegas in April. So unless anything else disastrous happens, I don't want to jinx it, but unless anything else disastrous happens, we should be there, and we'll be demonstrating Paragon alongside those other new tools that I mentioned for the first time in person.
Yeah, I mean, April's far enough away that we've got to hope that the world gets somewhat in order. And
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. But that gives us a bit of time. We know that Nugen are constantly working on new developments. Can you give us any hints as to what might be coming up between now and NAB, and what other stuff we might be able to, is there going to be more developments before NAB that we can see there?
So we are we're always working on new developments, but we are, I would say, especially busy currently. I believe we've got 3 new products that are currently in the pipeline, one of which is actually quite imminent, but I don't think I'm allowed to say anything about it yet. But yeah, we have one that's pretty imminent. I know, terrible. And 2 more, which I suspect one of them may be around in time for NAB, but certainly we do have 3 tools in the pipeline, and those kind of cover the sort of breadth of what we do here at Nugen. So one of those is kind of more geared towards the kind of technical side of music production. One of them is kind of geared towards surround workflows, and particularly Dolby Atmos. And the other is to do with loudness, which is kind of our bread and butter. Unfortunately, I can't go into a huge amount of detail about any of those, but it's pretty exciting. And yeah, it's always nice to kind of be able to cover sort of all 3 core parts of our customer base as well.
That sort of answers what I was going to ask you next, actually, in a way. We mentioned the broadcast sector a second ago. What other sort of sectors does Nugen Audio operate in? Is broadcast your largest area, or what sort of other areas are you selling your wares into?
Certainly, broadcast is a major one. And I guess audio post for film, although that's kind of there's a lot of overlap between those now anyway, especially in the streaming age. Beyond that, we do also make music production tools, and actually that's what we started off with. So I mean, before I was with the company, but initially it was exclusively music production tools, and we've moved into the world of audio post and audio for broadcast and so on, and that's kind of where we found our home. But we do still kind of keep ticking along with music production tools as well.
And do you see, I'm interested as well as to whether you see a particular growth in a particular market. You know, I guess music production, it must be pretty stable. You know, you're involved, you're a tool that's going to be used, that's it. But is there a particular growth in, like, have you seen a particular growth in tools that you might produce for streaming, or tools for cinema, or, you know, home users that are doing smaller productions? Can you see any trends there?
I mean, you mentioned that music production is quite steady, but to be honest, particularly over the past 18 months with people spending a lot more time at home, I think one thing we've found is that there are a lot more hobbyists who perhaps didn't have the time to dedicate to music before, you know, getting into music production for the first time. Beyond that, I mean, this has been over the past decade, but loudness as a concern for people working in TV and film is kind of continuing to sort of grow, and the kind of technology behind that is continuing to develop, you know, to try and get people the best viewing experience, and that is still the case. But I guess the main thing still, and I keep hammering away at this, but Dolby Atmos is the thing that's really becoming massive, and particularly this year that's been a huge thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I guess we're right in saying everything that you mentioned now is shipping now. Where can people find out more?
Yes, that's right. So Paragon ST, and the Focus Elements tools, those are all available from our website, which is nugenaudio.com. And, you know, your kind of preferred dealer of audio tools as well, chances are they'll have it.
Fantastic. Great. Freddie, thank you very much. Always good to catch up. And yes, of course, do go to nugenaudio.com to find out more. Thanks, of course, to Mediaproxy for their continued support of KitPlus TV, and thanks to you for watching. We'll see you next time.